These individuals were born male, but they believe they are really female.
You look in the mirror and you wonder, why am I like this?
I thought death was preferable to existing.
For the transsexual, simply living in their own body is agonizing.
They really feel that they're born with the wrong sexual organs.
Each year, thousands of transsexuals, born as men, make the ultimate decision to be physically transformed into women. Despite the risks and enormous costs, they undergo the most extreme and life-altering surgeries. Their bodies reshaped, their faces recontoured, their sex changed forever. For a transsexual, fitting into society is often an odyssey of prejudice and torment.
I'm sorry about the darkness, but I don't want you to know who I am, because there is a risk that if you did, I could lose everything. My family, my friends, my livelihood, maybe even my life. But I don't want your pity. Indeed, nobody in this program does. Our condition is known medically as gender dysphoria, commonly referred to as transsexualism. Simply put, our brains tell us we are female, but we were born with the bodies of males. What causes this condition is not clear, but what is certain is that the effects are with us virtually every second of every minute of every day of our lives.
To me, I've lived almost all my life pretending to be someone I wasn't.
I have such trouble functioning in society as a male. It's like a living death.
And of course then there's the fantasizing about being a girl, which has been going on since I was about 3.5.
It's not really a choice at all. It's just, for me, it's a matter of survival. I would go to bed at night just literally asking God to just please not let me wake up in the morning.
I decided, you know what, obviously I'm wrong. I must be in fact a boy. And I must do all these sort of the boyish things and hang out with boys and... well, try and be a boy.
Try and be a boy. For the average male, acting male is as simple as being themselves. For transsexuals, to be the person they feel they are is to deny the very bodies they live in. For some, there is only one solution: to literally become the opposite sex.
For people who think that this is a choice, I would love them to be a fly on the wall in my office. I would believe that within a very short period of time, anyone who held that belief would throw it out the window. There is so much difficulty and pain and distress in going through this experience for most people that the idea that this is choiceful is simply ridiculous.
You don't choose to be transsexual. It's something that nature throws at you, and you deal with it as best you can. If you deal with it wrong, you come to grief. If you deal with it correctly, if you have the right treatment, you can make a success of your life.
Transsexuals are often assumed to be the same as transvestites, who enjoy dressing as women for personal pleasure or sexual gratification. For transsexuals, it's not about sex. It's a never-ending struggle of feeling like you were born in the wrong body. How one chooses to deal with these feelings depends on the person. Some may simply wish to live outwardly as a woman without surgical changes. Others take every possible step, no matter how painful or extreme, in the pursuit of womanhood. Anne will soon undergo a total reconstruction of her face to make it more feminine. Kimberly will have the same surgery, along with breast implants and a procedure to reduce the size of her Adam's apple. And Jennifer is scheduled for the ultimate surgery, the surgical reassignment of her sex, a procedure that's undergone astonishing refinements since its beginnings decades ago.
There are different aspects of the surgery. Number one, you want to make a good vagina. 2, you want to make sensation so that the person's going to have an orgasm. And number 3, you want them to look good on the outside.
But before any patient is rolled into the OR, there are critical stages of the transition that must come first. Job 1 is assessing the patient's mental health. Both psychiatrist Russell Reed of London and counselor Marie Keller of Los Angeles are on the front lines of this treatment. Alexis is a new patient of Dr. Reed's. She has only recently begun living full-time as a woman. Vanessa is also at the beginning of her transition. In fact, she's still in male role at her job. Both are taking the first bold steps toward becoming a woman. Female hormone therapy. The effects can be dramatic.
Almost all the time, this testosterone was surging through my body and all turning me on, and I didn't want to be, and I couldn't take the sex, and it just freaked me out. And when I started taking the hormones, it suppressed this and allowed me to control it. It wasn't sort of an urge, it was more a feeling, an emotion.
Now, of course, I'm getting breasts growing, and I'm feeling terribly emotional, and well, not terribly emotional. It's good. It's like a release. I don't have to bottle things up inside anymore. My God, the hair on that creature.
That's 3 Christmases ago, that is.
That's not me, that's my brother.
Oh, that's my brother.
Look, I've got hair at the bottom
He's
as
gone
well.
now, he's my sister.
Alexis is lucky. Her family has been very supportive. In fact, her relationship with her sister has undergone a sort of rebirth since she began living full-time as a woman.
When Alexis was my brother, and she was Simon, he was Simon, he didn't have that much going for him. He wasn't a happy person, he wasn't outgoing, excited about life, and that made me sad.
I think it was better once I told someone, because before I was the only person who knew. I was the sole person in the entire universe who knew that I was a girl.
For so many people, when they start taking hormones, they feel like they're finally putting their foot on the right path, that they're finally, it's almost like they've had a vitamin deficiency, and they're finally getting the vitamin that they need.
The effects of the hormones obviously are going to be fairly dramatic in terms of making you impotent, feminizing your body, making your breasts grow. They'll become very tender and sore at first, but after those changes subtly and steadily progress, you certainly know whether or not you're on the right track, because if you're a gay man, you don't want to be made impotent. If you're a fetishistic transvestite, you don't want to be made impotent. If you're an ordinary fellow, you don't want to have breasts growing. So, you know, it's a diagnostic test.
You look in the mirror and you start to notice different changes in your anatomy due to hormones, mainly muscle loss and other things, and you start to feel more free. I finally felt normal.
I started on an estrogen, and you get a couple of injections, a total of 3 over the course of months. And later on, they put you on a testosterone blocker, and your shape starts to change. And it's just wonderful. It's magnificent. You know, it's just such an innocent feeling about you. You know, you felt like Audrey Hepburn walking around, you know.
The ability to live undetected as the opposite sex is a major concern for many transsexuals. Although hormone therapy is critical, hormones alone do not guarantee every transsexual will look like a female, a concept known as passing.
I just like being perceived as a female, and my friends that are honest to me will tell me, oh, you just look like a dude in a dress.
There's a transsexual woman, there's more to do than as a real woman, because I still have to do all the male things like shave, but really closely. And I have to shave my hands, my arms, my chest, my back, my neck, my legs, my feet. The way I look, the way I act, the way I walk. It all has to be subtly tweaked to be feminine.
Me, I want to be perceived as a normal girl. I want to be treated as a normal girl. I want people to think of me just like they would think of my neighbor. The only way to achieve that is to play the part, to be totally presentable in that manner.
Passability involves everything from the obvious, clothes and hairstyle, to the subtleties of how one walks and talks.
So, for example, let me do this really slowly. I used to have a much deeper tone and a much stronger vocal tone, and a much more of an edge to my tone, almost like I'm angry. Can you hear it now? And this is more of my natural way, and I would really hit my syllables and really enunciate so as that you'd really understand. And so what I learned to do is I learned to take a little bit of that out of the back of my throat, that rolling that you have. You have to reduce that, and then you just kind of soften up the vowels, and maybe raise the pitch a little bit.
It's not uncommon for transsexuals who were born male to spend years at classically masculine pursuits such as the military or sports, finding their machismo in the manly things they do. Anne's lifelong passion is hockey. That's her with the puck. Of all the adjectives used to describe transsexuals, toughness might not be the first to come to mind. But faced with rampant discrimination and even violence, toughness is central to survival.
There is generated through this process a lot of discomfort for people. And they just project this discomfort back onto the person who's changing and basically say, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. What they're really saying is, you shouldn't be making me feel uncomfortable.
In her hockey games, Anne's judged by her skills, not her gender. She hoped the same would be true in her job as a paralegal, where Anne was still known as Dave.
He came to see me one day and sat down and said that he really had something to tell me. And he proceeded to tell me that he had a gender identity disorder and that he was seriously considering having a change.
For a lot of people, there seems to be the day where they switch from being Jack on Friday to Monday morning they're going to be Jill. I didn't have that. I was kind of Jilling all the way through. I was pretty much wearing all women's clothing.
But inevitably, the day came for more than subtle changes in attire. The day came to wear a skirt.
David left on a Friday at the end of the day and came in Monday morning and was dressed in a skirt and shirt and nylons and high heels, and she was Anne.
That day was my first day at work in a skirt. No one really was bothered by it.
She walked into my office, and I guess I had my head down. I was working on something, and when I looked up, she was standing there with like a suit jacket on, and I really wasn't focusing on it. But when she left, I saw that she had a suit on, she had a dress, she had stockings on, and it was different. But I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it. As more time goes on, just like with anything new, you just become, you're more accepting.
I worry for her because at this point right now, she hasn't had surgery, and she hasn't fully made the transition, and I worry for her because you can definitely look at her at this point and see that she's still a man, and I worry that the stranger that doesn't know her story, that they're laughing and making comments. My heart goes out for her.
Anne started living full-time as a woman about a year ago. Hormones have softened her, but not enough. Deep down, she knows to be completely passable, she needs more extreme measures. So she's traveling across the country to San Francisco to meet a surgeon with a rare specialty, facial feminization. In just a matter of days, Anne's face will be permanently reconstructed to look like a woman's. Anne has arrived in San Francisco for her facial feminization surgery. Until now, her interaction with her surgeon, Dr. Doug Osterhout, has been through phone calls and emailing photographs of her face. Now the detailed preparation goes into motion. X-rays are made of her face. New photographs are taken. Then Dr. Osterhout analyzes every aspect of her face that he plans to change.
Some of these are mathematical. The degrees of projection, the shape of the jaw. On the other hand, some of it is strictly an artistic contour as to what I feel makes a beautiful jaw in a female, what I think makes a beautiful cheek in a female, what I think makes a beautiful nose in a female, what makes a beautiful forehead. All righty, it's D-Day. Last chance to change your mind. Isn't that going to happen?
Along with the artistry goes a heavy dose of geometry. In fact, the proportions of the classical ideal of beauty have actually been reduced to an equation. The most pleasing faces typically fall within specific ratios.
Beauty is not just an accident. Beauty is, in my mind, it's not an accident. You can't do a lot with width, but you can certainly change proportions in the vertical, up and down sense. This little instrument gives me this constant ratio between these two to tell me if I'm putting her face into what I feel are the proper proportions. And we divide the face oftentimes into units, like the forehead is one unit. The cheek area will be a unit, or we can also say another unit is from the nose to the chin. This tells me basically where I want the bottom of her chin to be.
One thing is quickly evident to Dr. Osterhout. Anne's face is not in proper proportion for feminine beauty. Her chin is too long and hairline too high, both issues that can be corrected surgically.
These proportions, these ratios, I think are really what makes that in symmetry are probably what makes a face beautiful.
get up tomorrow morning around 5 o'clock. There's a cow to pick me up at 5:45, which is going to bring me to the admissions office here. And from there, things change, yes.
Things change forever, and that is the dream.
Were I to look in the mirror afterwards and not recognize the person, I think I would be on cloud 9.
Good morning. Well, did you sleep last night?
Yes, I did.
Did you? Did you take a Valium?
I did not.
You did not take a Valium. You got some sleep. Good.
When I walked into the admissions office this morning, I was able to see my reflection in the mirror, and I guess I took one last look. And I even said to the guy, well, I guess it's the last time I'll see this face. And he kind of giggled. I had no remorse, no regrets.
Okay, we're going to go right in here.
These are the lateral cephalograms obtained on Anne, and during surgery, we're going to want to reduce several areas. We're going to want to reduce this fullness that she has beneath the brow, that you can see this roundness here. We're going to reduce her lower jaw in several ways. We're going to reduce the angle of her jaw, and we're going to reduce the vertical height of her chin, and I'm actually going to bring it slightly forward to give her what I think is a better profile view. We're going to have a great day today. We're going to start with the scalp and the forehead, and then we'll go down to the chin, followed by the tapering of the lower jaw, and lastly, the nose. Here we go.
While surgeries can help in dealing with the effects of transsexuality, the causes are still unknown. But now an unprecedented study is offering the first clues that could unlock the mystery. Here, in Amsterdam, research on the brains of deceased transsexuals is revealing something incredible. Dr. Louis Goren is an endocrinologist living in Amsterdam. To date, he's treated almost 2,400 transsexuals, making him one of the world's leading experts on the topic.
Transsexualism strikes where it pleases, and you find people of all walks of life in your transsexual population. You find transsexuals all over the world.
Research on the transsexual brain has been nearly impossible to obtain. The grim fact is many details of the brain can only be revealed during dissection. But Dr. Goren and his colleagues at the Netherlands Brain Institute have taken the groundbreaking first steps in such research, the first and only study in which donated brains of deceased transsexuals have been dissected. Dr. Dick Schwab was in charge of the study.
I think it took me some 12 years or so to collect 8 brains. It takes a long time.
Doctors knew the area of the brain they thought might yield answers. The hypothalamus, a small hormone-producing section buried deep at the base of the brain, an area that scientists already knew demonstrated physical differences between biological males and females. The hypothalamuses were dissected and prepared for study. Lead researcher Dr. Frank Kuiver explains.
So what we are looking at here is the microtome, which is a way to cut brain material into very thin slices.
Once prepared on slides, the slices of hypothalamus are exposed to chemicals that reveal neuron fibers. It was already known that the normal biological male and female brains had very different neuron patterns in this part of the brain.
So you can see here the difference between a born male and a born female in a structure that is important for sexual behavior. And you can see in the first place that in the male the structure is bigger than in the female. In the second place, it's also clear that it's containing much more of those black points, which are fibers coming in from another brain area that is important for sexual behavior.
The question was, how would the transsexual brains compare to normal male and female brains? The answer offered the only biological evidence ever collected that confirms what transsexuals have always believed. Their brains are not like others.
This one is a born male, but from the age of 5 or 8 years onwards, he felt that in fact he was female. So it's a male to female transsexual. And you can see that the size and also the type of innervation of this structure is typically female, not male.
Simply put, every single transsexual brain studied more closely resembled the opposite sex from which it was born. Many basic questions must still be answered, such as what effects do female hormones have on the brain? Interestingly, one of the male-born transsexual brains studied had never been subjected to female hormones and still showed the same feminine characteristics, possibly indicating that hormone treatment is not the cause of the brain differences. The sampling of 8 brains is small, but the consistency of the findings is still encouraging to scientists. Believers and skeptics alike would prefer more information about the cause of the condition. But for people like Kimberly, the causes are less important at this point than the effect it's had on her and those around her. After 4 marriages and 4 children as Ken, Kimberly realized that living in between was never going to work. She began to transition, a process that was devastating to her current wife, Nancy. As Nancy learned more about the condition, she reached a different conclusion.
If it is truly a birth defect, which in Kimberly's case I believe it is, I can't think of a worse thing to put yourself through.
19-year-old Monique was accustomed to her unusual father, but that didn't change the impact of her first meeting with Kimberly.
Well, Ken had breasts and wore high-heeled shoes and makeup, and it was a very big shock. Even though I knew what I was going to see, it was very, very weird. My dad is dead, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I have like old pictures and stuff, but it'll never be the same. Can't ever introduce her to anybody as my father anymore.
Despite their own losses, Kimberly's wife and daughter are offering support as she heads into surgery. With her therapist's approval and hormone therapy well underway, she's ready for Dr. Osterhout. Before the facial reconstruction, she'll have a comparatively simple procedure to enlarge her breasts. The steps of the breast implant surgery are identical on a biological female and a transsexual. Kimberly's incision will be located in the fold underneath the breast. The implant will be placed under the chest muscle for a more natural appearance. Saline-filled prosthetic will contain.
That's one.
Kimberly is not looking for a subtle change. Kimberly will undergo facial feminization surgery and a procedure commonly referred to as a tracheal shave, where the cartilage of the Adam's apple is reduced to create a more feminine neckline. There are no set stages in transitioning. It is a process driven by the individual's ability to afford surgeries and their own personal concerns about their appearance. Jennifer has no desire for facial surgery or breast enhancement. The only surgery she has planned is arguably the most dramatic, the sex reassignment surgery. In fact, she is just weeks away from that life-altering event. Every person who has ever undertaken the mission to change their sex has had the feeling that they were on display. For Jennifer Lightham, the experience was a bit more complex. She originally gained notoriety as a gifted left-handed bassist by the name of John Lightham. As a member of the Doc Severinsen Band and a recording artist with a busy touring schedule, being in the limelight was already a way of life. Jennifer had no choice but to be on public display throughout her transition.
Jazz is what I do best. Jazz is what I'm known for. My being a musician was like a search for an inner beauty. It was something that I just did without thinking about gender. I think that's why I was so drawn to it.
When Jennifer finally told her employer about her transition, Doc Severinsen made an announcement to her bandmates.
He went out there and he said, "Guys, I have an announcement to make. One of our band members is going through a big change. Our bass player, John Lightham, is going to now be known as Jennifer Lightham. And I don't want any of you guys to give her a hard time because she's suffered enough. If you have any problems, you come to me."
For a while, Jennifer's on-stage transition literally happened one venue at a time. As the word got out, it became clear that her fans were more interested in her as a world-class musician than whether she was a man or a woman. As the jazz world buzzed, she forged ahead with performances and her preparation for the surgery that would reconstruct her genitals from male to female, known as SRS, sex reassignment surgery.
Nobody goes through all of this stuff because they want to. It's because, you have to. For sexual reassignment surgery, you need to have the particular procedure I'm going through. I'm not very well endowed down there, thank goodness. I never have been. And in order to make a deep enough vagina, they need to take surrounding tissue like this. Everything gets reused and stuffed up inside you. Your scrotum and some of the surrounding area. All that is used to make the walls of the vagina.
Prior to her surgery, Jennifer will have one last meeting with her surgeon, Dr. Gary Alter of Los Angeles. Dr. Alter is one of a handful of surgeons in the country who specializes in sex reassignment surgeries. That does not mean just anyone can dial his number and schedule surgery. There are accepted medical standards at every stage of the transition.
Before I do the surgery, I need letters from 2 therapists who know the patient that support the transition. We don't want to take chances. I don't want a patient coming back to me after I've done the surgery saying, hey, I made a mistake. We'll go over how I do the sex change again, and then I'll go through some options that I might do with you, okay? Because, what you want the patient to have is a deep enough vagina to have adequate sex, assuming that patient wants to have intercourse, a clitoris with sensation, orgasmic, and, just feel normal, feel like a woman.
Incredibly, surgeons can now preserve the ability to experience orgasm using a section from the head of the penis.
What we do now, which is a major advancement, is take a little piece of the head of the penis and keep it attached to all the nerves and to the vessels so that it stays alive, and that becomes your clitoris. I try to make their vagina, inside and out, look as normal as possible so that they don't have to worry about being discovered.
The day of Jennifer's sex reassignment surgery has arrived.
Well, we're just minutes away from going for anesthesia. It's finally happening. I'm not that nervous about this, really. It's something I know it's been coming for a long time, and the nerves have been, they've been there for a while. And I'm sure this knot in my stomach has something to do with my nerves. But it's happening. Let's get it on. I'm tired of waiting. Just do it and let's get it over with.
They're going to take you inside and lie you down, put you to sleep, and you'll wake up. You probably won't remember anything until you're back in recovery. Okay, and away we go. Raise the table a little bit, Steve.
This surgery draws on a variety of surgical skills. Dr. Alter has a double specialty in urology and plastic surgery, a combination that serves his goal of form and function very well.
So far.
In the weeks and months following the SRS, the patient must stretch the new vagina for depth and circumference with a series of increasingly larger phallus-shaped dilators.
It's amazing to me how when these patients dilate up, how they get amazingly deep. So post-operatively, by dilating, they're able to get a lot deeper than you're able to get surgically. And that's it. Everything went really well.
This is the ultimate identity crisis. You feel like you're living a lie and your body is the lie. What they're going through, nobody would want to go through.
Besides the physical and emotional aspects of transitioning, part of what they go through is extreme financial strain. In fact, the costs of transitioning are simply prohibitive for many. But as the weeks and months have passed since Kimberly, Ann, and Jennifer's surgeries, a more immediate cost has been the top concern: pain.
I remember waking up from breast surgery in massive pain in the recovery room. It felt like there was a car sitting on my chest.
It has been about 2 months since Kimberly underwent 2 consecutive days of surgery, first to enhance her breasts, then to reconstruct her face.
By the next morning when I went into facial surgery, I thought I had signed up for a lot more surgery than I could really handle. But when I woke up from the facial surgery, everything seemed to be fine. My breast still hurt a lot, but my face didn't hurt at all.
With the swelling nearly gone, Kimberly is finally able to appreciate the difference the surgeries have made to her life.
I'm not getting stared at like I used to. More people are flirting with me. The changes are really subtle, so I still look like me. I just look like a more feminine me than I used to.
These surgeries have been a major hurdle for Kimberly, but they are not the last.
Now it's time for the next step. I undergo sex reassignment surgery with Dr. Gary Alter, and I am very excited about that appointment, probably more so than my face or my breasts.
It's easy to imagine a patient having second thoughts following such a painful process and dramatic change to their appearance. For transsexuals, post-op regrets are very rare, with good reason.
I had decades to think about it, and it took me years and years to find enough courage to do it, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my life.
Anne's surgery was approximately 4 months ago. Her recovery is nearly complete.
At first, I still would look in the mirror and I would sort of see a boy. And slowly that's changed. And a lot more now I look in the mirror and I see a girl. People who have been introduced to me as Anne view me as such. And a lot of them, when they find out that I once had a different name, they're in complete shock. And that exactly was the goal. Things have gone so well for me, I never could have imagined how well they've gone. I couldn't have scripted it. I've gotten everything I possibly could have dreamed of and more. It has made such a big impact on the way other people interpret me. No one recently has interpreted me as male.
As the before and after photographs reveal, Anne's passability has been dramatically transformed.
I feel as though the surgery and, what Doug did for me freed me as a human being. And it's allowed me to function in society. It's allowed me to act without fear of persecution. I've become a totally new person.
Jennifer's surgery was also nearly 4 months ago. It has not been an easy recovery. A post-operative complication slowed her healing, but she is back on stage, doing what she loves most.
On bass, Jennifer Lightham.
I think this is my first time playing in a club since I've had my surgery. I've been playing mostly with symphony orchestras and concerts and jazz festivals, and I've had a little trepidation because I'll be walking around with people and you never know if you're going to find someone that has a problem with you, but this is a pretty warm place and people have always been great to me here, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. My website has really been getting a lot of hits from people wishing me well, congratulating me, telling me I'm some kind of brave person, from people, individuals that I never would have thought would have been on my side in this whole thing. Most people seem to only really want to focus on how well I play music. That's the main thing, and that couldn't be better for me. I paid my dues. I'm really happy with how I feel now and how things are going in my life. For the most part, it's been a wonderful thing. I certainly had some issues with people who were close to me before that I'm still dealing with, and I'm sure that will always be a work in progress. But for my own self and my inner being and everything, I couldn't be happier.
It won't help to condemn us. It won't help to judge us. It won't help to throw us out of your churches or to make us outcasts in society. We're just doing what we have to do to stop the path of self-destruction and stay alive.
Transsexuals are just basically normal people getting on with their lives in a way that they have to make themselves feel normal.
What I would want someone to learn from my situation is that, number one, I'm a human being. I'm not out to make the world safe for transgenders or transsexuals. I'm not out to beat a drum and say, recognize me, I'm the third sex, or anything like that. I'm out to say I'm a human being. I'm part of the population. I want to be a positive person. Look at this as a medical condition, and it's simply not a choice.
It's amazing what people go through who are transgendered. The people I work with who come to accept themselves have searched their souls.
Someday, research may reveal the exact causes of transsexualism and lead to a cure, a way of resetting the mind to match the body. Until that time, those suffering with this condition will face challenges most of us cannot imagine. Their goal is no different than any other person. But for the transsexual, reaching that goal can be nothing short of extraordinary.